special book for me because my husband was a very close friend of the Kennedys, Jack and Jackie and his former wife. And so I know a lot about the Kennedys and about Jackie. I thought I did until I read your book, which I was riveted by because you have written about Jackie Kennedy that I never knew anything about. And it was just blew me away to find out who she really was. And one of the things that I was curious about was how you felt about her once you finished doing the research and writing the book. Did you have a totally different view of her before you started and then once you finished?
First of all, that's a really excellent question to ask a biographer. So thank you for that. I had written, and it was published in 1997, an oral history biography of her called As We Remember Her, in which I interviewed so many people, including Teddy Kennedy, Eunice Shriver, her stepbrother Yusha. I spent a weekend with in Newport, and so I had a very palpable sense of her as a person. But that and so many of those interviews, most of those interviews, I mean, that manuscript was insane. It was like 5,000 pages, the first draft. But luckily I saved it. And so I had to retype it because it was just on paper, but I had so much material that went unused. But it was really in going through those columns, which I do think is the heart of this story, her daily columns, and you're getting a really close snapshot of her 6 days a week for a year and a half. And I did get a very different sense of her, a very earthy sense, and that wicked sense of humor. I mean, people like to so-called call it sometimes Irish wit, and but the truth is she was actually more Irish than she was French. And I sometimes think that wit, that biting wit, was another reason she and Jack Kennedy bonded so much. But I really did, and I appreciate that question because that's exactly what my hope is that people do get a fuller sense of her. Along those lines, one last thing, I think slowing her story down. I think she's got such a rich story that even when I wrote the oral history biography of her, it was such a sweep, of her entire life, that to slow it down to these four formative years, that was a very crucial decision my editor and I made early on.